Alright, welcome back everybody, this is GTM. In today's video tutorial, we're basically just going to be covering parts of the control panel here. Mainly the create tab, how to create objects, how to control them, and so forth. Or at least some of the more important techniques or portions of the control panel, I suppose. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and launch up 3D Max here. And when I mean control panel or command panel, otherwise it's known as the command panel, I just call it the control panel. This is this little area here. So we're mainly going to focus on, obviously, the geometry here. So if you click on this, it looks like a little sun here, create tab. You have your standard, geometry you can work with, your boxes, spheres, cylinders, and so forth. There's quite a few of them here as we go down the list. Also, you have your shapes. You'll learn these some of these tools in later video tutorials. As you can see, we have like lights, cameras, helpers, and like I said, we're not going to get all into this. Like I said, I figured it's best to just learn it as you go when you do certain tutorials that that either I post up or that you find on the web. All right, but let's go ahead and start with our standard primitives here. So basically, I'm in my Create tab, and right here under the geometry icon, as you can see, it's yellow and activated. Notice we have a drop-down list here. We have standard and extended primitives. And like I said, if we click down here, also you'll see other options like compound objects, particle systems, and so forth. Like I said, the ones we're probably going to be messing with the most at your, basically beginning stages would be your standards, your extendeds, and compound objects here. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some of these, some of this geometry we actually can lay down. So I'm going to go ahead and throw down a box here. I'm going to activate it. As you can see, it turns yellow, and then I can actually just click, hold it down, click again, raise it up, and that's, your standard box here. Remember, F4 is your edges. And like if I hit Alt, middle mouse, I can arc rotate around it. That's one thing you definitely want to get used to. And also I'm hitting Alt W. You definitely want to hit your middle mouse and hold down Alt key, and that will let you arc rotate around your object. So you'll always hear me saying walk around your object. You got to get used to walking around in 3D. Alright, so basically that is our box. I'm going to go ahead and lay down all my shapes in here so you can see what's going on. All right, we got our sphere. I'm just gonna click, drag, throw a sphere down. Got my cylinder. I'm gonna click, drag. As you can see, we have a basic cylinder. Our torus knot, kind of like a donut looking thing. And then we have obviously our teapot. I guess the history behind the teapot, you might want to wiki it or Google it, but I believe it's one of the first things that was ever created in 3D, so I think it's kind of like an homage or paying homage to, this wonderful teapot. So, I don't know why they have it in there, but it's kind of there almost in every standard program, like Maya, I believe has it, of course Max, and I don't know if like Softmage has it, but I'm sure other software have, has the teapot in it as well. Anyways, we got our cone. Kind of works like a cylinder, but at the same time you're able to bevel it in or out. We have our geosphere. It's kind of like a sphere, but it's a little bit different. Almost like a biosphere type of thing, dome type of thing. Alright, we have our tube, which is almost like a cylinder, but it builds the inside. Or kind of like a tube light. Well, actually, that's what it's called, a tube, I suppose. We have our pyramid, and of course our regular plane, which is just a single plane that lays down on the ground. Alright, as you can see, we got some basic shapes, and I'm kind of moving around here. Alright, a couple things I want you guys to get like a habit right off the bat is, with all this geometry down here, notice when I click my select and move tool, which is right here, and if you notice right beside it, I have my select and rotate, and then of course my uniform scale. Now the hotkeys for these three, and eventually when you get used to moving around in 3D, is your W, E, and R. So W is for the move, E for the rotate and R for the scale. And of course, if you hold down the scale, you have different types of scales, uniform scale, and then these other options. But chances are you'll always be in your uniform scale. Alright, now with my move tool, I hit W, or I just click here. Notice I'm going to click on the teapot. I want you guys to do this. This is kind of good practice for pretty much anybody that's getting used to moving around in 3D. Once you select the object, hit your Z key, that frames up, and then just use your middle mouse to zoom out. Grab your, any other kind of object in the scene and hit Z, zoom out. Hit Z, zoom out. Just get in the habit of learning how to zoom in and out, or zooming up on an object that you want to work on. As you can see, I'm just kind of hitting Z on certain objects, and I'm kind of framing up on that. Now, it's always good practice too. For example, if you're working on a certain object, like if I were working on that box, I would hit Z, right click on it, and then you'll notice you're going to have some options here. You can hide unselected, so now you're just working on that box and everything else is hidden within the scene. Now if you want to unhide everything or reveal everything back, just right click out in the gray area here and just say unhide all, and that brings everything back. So for example, I can work on this tube here, Z up on it, right click, hide unselected, and then I can arc rotate around that, and then unhide all to get back. So do that a couple times, get used to that. Here's Z, and Zing up on the teapot, hide unselected, and just arc rotating around it. So I can look at all sides of it. Alright, unhide all, and I'll do one more, and I'm gonna Z up on, let's say, the pyramid here. Z, right click, hide unselected, and basically I'm just arc rotating around it. And the reason I try to get you used to that is, for example, if you're working on a complex object, and you know what, let me go ahead and just load one up here. I'm gonna go ahead and open up some kind of a 3D model that I got from something from the past I created. I guess this is really old school. Let me go to some 3D, and let me pick on this little robot here I got. I'm just gonna open that up, and then you can see what I mean by Zing up on certain areas. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click, unhide all, and as you can see, we got some complex geometry going on. So if I need to work on something like the finger here, I can click on it, Z up on it, and now I'm working on that joint. Or maybe it's something, let's see, let me click on this. That's the skull from a rig. So if, say I need to work on some details on her helmet, I can click on it, Z up on it, hide unselected, whoops, hide unselected, and now I'm just focusing on the helmet here. Of course, if I hit F4, obviously this geometry has already been collapsed, but that's basically the point I'm getting across here. I can't take credit for that gun. That gun is not mine. I forgot what modeler did that, so thought I'd give the props out whoever did it. I just thought it looked pretty cool with the mech here that I modeled a long time ago. Alright, so for example, let's do one more. Maybe I was working on maybe a part of her arm here. Maybe I'll grab a few of these here, and I'm going to Z up on it, right click, hide unselected, and then now I'm just working on that. Or maybe I need to work on her joint. Z, hide unselected, and now I'm working on that. So I guess hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Like I said, it's good practice and our good habit. Let me see if I can find another object really quick. So I'm going to open up, let's see, let's open up the composite here. I have the android here with some kind of mech bike or some sort. Actually, it's like kind of a bike that was kind of referenced off a Kira or some sort, or something like that. I'm gonna hit my P to get in perspective here. As you can see, I got my safe frames on. I'm just gonna right click right here on the perspective and uncheck safe frames. Alright, so as you can see, we have some geometry in the scene, but like I said, there could be some really intricate parts that you're trying to work on. For example, like this, you know, the dials right here. I can Z up on that, hide unselected, and now I'm just working on those. Unhide, zoom out with my middle mouse, and let's say we have to work on maybe, I don't know, it could be just, let's say, this axle here. Hide unselected, I can Z up on it, and I'm just working on that piece right there. Alright, so unhide all, and I'm going to zoom back out. And there you go. Hopefully that makes a little more sense now, what I was trying to get you guys used to. Alright, so let's go back. I'm going to, you know, reset. And we'll get back to our normal scene here. So I'm going to actually lay down this plane again, and let's do that again. Let's go ahead and throw a plane down here. I'm going to go for my top view. And as you can see, I'm just scaling it with my scale tool. We'll get more, I'll get a little more detail into this. Just want to get back to our shapes. I'm hitting Alt W. Alright, so let's talk about, you know, when we create an object. For example, I'm going to go down to the box. Notice we have our settings here. And we are working in feet and fractal inches. You can also, well, let me go ahead and click my box here on the ground. I'm going to hit F4 so you can see my edges. I'm going to hit G to get rid of that grid right there. That's my G key. Notice we're working in feet and fractal inches. You also have customized unit setup if you need to work in a different type of setup. You know, maybe you want to go decimal feet, decimal inches, and so forth. Fractal feet or fractional inches. And, you know, like I said, you have different type of metric setups you can work with. I'm just going to keep it at US standard and press OK. Alright, but also, you know, notice in our keyboard entries, chances are most of the time you'll actually be manually putting things in. Then again, you may be an architect, you know, an architect modeler, so you might want things very accurate, so that's why you punch in your, you know, your measurements. You know, maybe a wall needed to be a certain height. So maybe it needed to be whatever, you know, 10 feet by length, and, you know, maybe 2 feet by width, and then, you know, height could be whatever. Maybe it needed to be 20 feet in height, you know, so, and that is a big wall. But yeah, I hope you get the idea. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that guy. And that goes with all your shapes here, you know. So if you lay down a sphere, you know, you have different radius sizes. Let me click that sphere and just raise it up a bit. I hit my modified. Notice we have hemisphere. That kind of like, you know, cuts the sphere in half. And so forth. Like I said, you can play with some of these settings here. Or like, you know, if I create, let's see what else we have. You know, like our cylinder here. You know, you have different heights and widths you can play with. But like I said, most of the time you may be manually just kind of throwing these in here. And eventually, you know, converting them into polys from there and adjusting them. Alright, so let me go ahead and clear all this. By the way, I'm just taking my marquee tool, which is this tool right here. It's your marquee tool. If you notice, yeah, you can hold it down. You got different kinds of options. Like this one, you can actually draw around, or you know, you got this one, which is kind of like a I don't want to say magnetic lasso, but a polygon lasso in Photoshop. Also, you have the circle one, where you can just kind of grab. You kind of does a radius, and of course your regular box marquee tool, which is this. Notice it's kind of like the marching ants in Photoshop. And of course, this is kind of new, I think. It's a spray can, so you just kind of spray around. Not that I've ever used those, but just let you know the options are there. One thing right here I want to kind of go over. Sometimes students or people that are first starting off on 3D, they might click that, and notice the marquee is around the box. That means you actually have to select the whole box or the whole object itself to work. Notice I can't just highlight and grab a portion. you actually have to, highlight the whole thing to be able to grab it. And notice it's not grabbing everything else. So if I wanted to highlight just the circle, it's just going to grab the circle. But like I said, I'd never use that. So in case you ever get in that situation, when you're trying to marquee something and you can't grab it, chances are you got this accidentally hit. So just uncheck that. Notice the marquee is outside, cutting through the geometry. So now you can just kind of like highlight certain areas and select them. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and delete those again. Hit my G key just to turn it on, and hit zoom all extents right here at the bottom, and that frames everything back up. Alright, let's talk about selection sets. I think this is another important thing. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down a plane on the ground. Notice I'm going to hit my G key again and get rid of my grid. Notice we have edges here, these extra edges. These are known as your length segments and width segments. As you can see, I have them at 4 and 4. If I crank them up to 8 and 8, you can see the object gets a little more dense, and so forth. You can crank it up or type in manually 100 by 100. Not that you would ever do that unless you're trying to create some kind of, a landscape of some sort. But let's just keep this for now 1 by 1. Alright, and from here I'm just going to go ahead and throw down some boxes. And also, I'm going to turn on my auto grid. See that tool right here? I'm going to check it. I'm going to lay down a box. That means I'm auto gridding to whatever plane my gizmo's on. And my gizmo is that Z, Y, and X axis. It's the blue, green, and yellow, or blue, green, and red arrows you're seeing on my mouse. And chances are, if it's not showing up, it's because the cam or the recorder I'm using that's recording my actions might not display the gizmo. I keep forgetting if it does or not. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and click and drag the box. But with my auto grid checked, notice I can auto grid another box right onto it from the top here. As you can see, I'm just auto gridding. That's kind of a useful tool in case you're trying to maybe build something on a table, like a glass eventually, or some plates. Just let you know you can, auto grid onto an existing surface. And that goes with any kind of object. I can hit a sphere, can auto grid another sphere onto the sphere. It can get pretty crazy. Not that I would want to do that, but just let you know you can auto grid your objects. Alright, now let's get into our selection set. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my marquee tool here, and let's turn off our cone. By the way, if you want to deselect something, all you gotta do is go to your move tool and usually just click somewhere in the gray to deselect it. Or if you're on an object itself, you can always just click here, or just click right off in the gray. I'm sorry, this is when I'll explain a little bit more when you get into sub objects. Alright, but let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and marquee these and just delete with my delete key. I'm going to hit Z to frame up. Let's ZF on that. Alright, that's good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and lay down some boxes again. And we're going to pretend these are, say, buildings. Alright. And I'm going to, just lay down a few of them. We'll pretend they're skyscrapers of some sort. And I got a few here. And like I said, I can actually click an object, and if I hold down shift and move my gizmo, obviously I can duplicate that object, and we'll talk more about these. I'm just kind of throwing more on here. Alright, so I got some boxes in here. Let's go ahead and throw a few pyramids. And we'll throw a few, I don't know, teapots. I know this doesn't make any sense, but I'm just trying to explain about selection sets. Alright, how selection sets work. And this can be very handy, especially when you start getting to complex objects. Or, things that you're modeling that might require a lot of detail. You need to organize things. For example, say you're modeling a car, and you modeled an engine, a really intricate engine, which has all its pistons and valves and spark plugs and all that. And you need to categorize things so you can easily work with them. Or it could be like a big city scene that you're creating. Like, for example, these could be a bunch of buildings and you got light poles in here. Let me make a couple cylinders. Like, we'll pretend those are little light poles. I'm just going to hold down shift and drag a bunch of those. Just bear with me. Let's, like I said, just kind of use your imagination. These are light poles or trees. I don't know. They're just cylinders, but alright, so making selection sets. If you see, if I click my move tool and select, I'm selecting one. If I hold down my control key, I can actually grab multiple objects, which I'm grabbing all the boxes. And we'll pretend those are my buildings. Now, if I go here and create selection set, I'm just going to call these buildings. Hit enter, and now I'll have a selection set. I'm deselecting out here, but now I have a selection set of buildings, and it selects all of them, so I can hide those selections. Now let's go ahead and make selection sets out of these. I can go ahead and marquee all these, and then click control, hold down control and select them, and now I'm going to call these teapots. Alright, I'm going to just go hide those. Whoops. We'll hide those selections, and then now we have our, I'm just going to highlight all those, and those are going to be our, we'll say light, light poles. Sorry, I'm typing in the dark here. I'm going to hide those. Looks like we missed a teapot, but that's going to be good because I can, I'll show you how we can add to the selection set we missed. Alright, and these are my pyramids. We'll call these, whatever, pyramids, I guess that's how you spell it, pyramids. Maybe I spelled that wrong. I don't know. I'm no English major here. I'm gonna hide those, and this is our, we'll just say this is our floor or ground. Alright, so everything's in selection sets, and I hit everything. So if I need to grab something I need to work with, I can go to my selection set, say I need to work with my building, so I'm going to click that. This is going to pop up. This set contains hidden or frozen objects. Do you want these objects to be unhidden and frozen? And unfrozen, just hit yes, and it reveals them. If I need to get my teapots back, just hit yes, and they're back. And so forth. Pyramids, I can hit yes, and they're back. So I'm just going to right click in the gray and hide all again. Now, notice we missed this teapot. Did not get put within the rest of them. So, how to add something to your selection set. If you go to edit, you have, oh, I'm sorry, maybe it's tools. Well, it's been a little bit here. Maybe it's edit. You have your, where's my selection sets? Oh, manage selection sets right here. You click that. Notice this dialog box. I always refer to any pop-up box like a dialog box. Don't know why. I forgot where I picked that up from. Maybe previous tutorials or books. It's been a while. I've just always been using that term. Alright, so you're going to get this dialog box that opens up. And notice we have our selection sets. Our buildings, grounds, light poles, pyramids, and teapots. Alright, and plus I got these sub-objects. If I click on that, it lets me know what all teapots are in here. So, I can actually add. So this being selected, I can click on it, hit my plus sign, and then now it just added it to the selection set. If I need to get rid of something in the selection set, all you gotta do is click it, and then minus it. Alright, so now if I grab the teapots, he's part of the selection set, and I can hide it. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and Z up on this, rotate around, and that pretty much covers about the selection sets and stuff. So we're going to still continue. I'm just going to stop the record and pick it up before I run out of space, or before, I can only record so much. So I don't want to risk, not being able to finish the video. Alright, so I'll be back in a few. Alright, I'm